this. So this is another edition of What's Your Objection and How Do We Diffuse It, Not Overcome It? We are here with Jonah from Wistia. Jonah, why does everyone at Wistia always look so well lit and always sound so good? Can you just elaborate on that before we get started, please?
Yeah, I wish I had a Barry White effect that I could just trigger right now. No, lighting and backdrop. That's the answer. Camera above the eye line. This is an exceptionally nice backdrop, but even if it's just a clean, uncluttered part of the office, and I'm sitting in front of a simple light right now. It's called the Lume Cube, L-U-M-E, but if you face a window, it's also just as good. But actually, yeah, shout out to Lume Cube. If you need a light, go buy one. They're really good.
Lume Cube. Now that backdrop that you have, because I want to get a backdrop so people don't see this window and bike and all this mishigas for all you non-Jews, just clutter. It's just a word for clutter behind me. So you'd put a white backdrop or a backdrop, and then you have to have lights pointing at that backdrop to make it look good. Is that the general, like that backdrop you have now, there's lights pointing at it?
This is painted on the wall, and it's just, there's a window over here. So the natural light is really good. So yeah, I mean, you could go crazy with like setting up like an actual backdrop behind you. But I would say, you know, if there's something you can hang on the wall that's intriguing, I would go with that option first.
See, guys, this is more than just objections. This is like how to level up your video game. Okay, so Jonah, we were having a correspondence via email, and you brought up an objection that you wanted to chat about today. And so what is it?
Yeah, so one of the toughest things that I've had to sort of get used to in my sales career, believe it or not, is just when folks ask, like, how are you different from this competitor? And it varies in difficulty from competitor to competitor, but like I would find myself doing the like show up and throw up routine, and I would just start trying to like throw darts at stuff that I wasn't sure that they would or wouldn't care about. I freely admit that. And yeah, I think over the last maybe year plus, my perspective on that has changed a fair bit, and I've gotten some great coaching on that from a couple of folks. But I just wanted to shout that out. I actually find that in some ways, depending on the situation, harder to respond to than like, this is too expensive, because, you know, as you've covered on prior conversations of it, there's usually something under that this is too expensive. And it just feels like there's more variety of things to address with the, like, how are you different? Because I could just, if somebody wants to let me, I could just go popcorn style for, you know, 5 uninterrupted minutes, but that's not going to help anyone. So
yeah, what's the problem with going popcorn style? Because I don't think is the a lot of people end up doing when they hear that question. They start to respond to it in terms of all of the different ways in which they perceive they are different or better. What do you think the challenge or the problem might be with that approach?
Yeah. Speaking from experience of having lost many opportunities while doing that, occasionally the language can be inside baseball. You're chatting with someone who has a problem to solve rather than someone who's just like looking to implement. And actually, most of my sales career has been in environments where inbound has been the primary source of traffic. And so we do get a lot of folks who are more in kind of an implementation mindset. And so if you're chatting with somebody who's not, and you do that, then it's like affects the conversation even more acutely because they're just in a different part of their evaluation and understanding their challenge. So
yeah. So one of the first things to keep in mind before we get into the tactics is when we hear, why are you different? Why are you better? Why should I choose you over X? All of a sudden, when we just hear that word, there's like a pit that comes into our stomach, and there's this pressure that just starts to boil up. And that pit and that pressure is coming from us thinking that we need to defend and explain and persuade. So with the sales DNA mindset that I'm proposing, we want to get away from that. So the last thing we want to do when someone asks us, why are you better? Why are you different? Is to go into this mode where we're actually going to tell people why we're better or different, because that is what they're used to hearing from every other salesperson. And oftentimes when you do that, the person on the other end feels like you're trying to move them along or persuade them and convince them in some way. And that often pushes people away. So whenever we hear an objection, we have to untrain ourselves that our job is to defend, overcome, justify, or persuade. So one of the ways to do that when you hear an objection is to use language and a tone of voice that doesn't create pressure. So rather than going, as you put it, popcorn style and starting to rattle off all the reasons why you're better, you can use what I call a diffuser, which if someone were to say to me, why are you different? Why are you better? I might say, I'm not sure we are. Immediately, just as a diffuser. So remember, diffusers are these little phrases that you have memorized that are just going to calm you down for just a second. And sometimes that's all it takes. A diffuser, that's not a problem. That's okay. Sure, I'd be happy to. I'm not sure we are fit. I'm not sure we are better than our competitor. I don't know. I certainly don't want to persuade or convince you in any way that we are better or different. At this point, I don't even know if we are. Would it be okay if I ask you some questions first to understand your needs, to see if we might be able to potentially help in any way? Because I don't want to assume that why I think we're different matters to you. Is that something you'd be open to? In a nice, relaxed dialogue. And then I might say, one of my first questions would be, why do you even want to look into this now anyway? Like, what are you looking to change? Why not just keep doing what you're doing? Right? So again, the first part of this is to just sit back. And when someone says to you, hey, and we'll role play this, why are you better? Why are you different than your competitors? I don't know if we are. It depends a little bit on what you're looking for. Would it be okay if I learned a little bit more about what you're looking for, so I don't do you a disservice, try to convince or persuade you into something that might not be relevant for you, because we're not for everybody, which is the truth. You're not for everybody. There might be use cases out there where you would actually recommend another product. I've done that all the time.
Yep.
And I'm sure that's the case with any product. Like, we're not all the end all be all. So I just want to stop here and see how that intent feels for the soul, Jonah.
No, I like that. So what I usually try to do in those spots, so usually when we're asked the question, it's in relation to like between 2 and 3 very specific competitors, obviously. And so I try to, as you've kind of put it, I try to like validate that question. Like, that's fantastic that you're doing your due diligence. They're definitely worth a look. Can I ask, like, is there anything that you've seen on their end that you thought was really great? Have you had a chance to check out that product yet? And try to draw out, try to get them speaking glowingly about some things that we probably have, some things that we probably don't. And then, in few examples, maybe somebody throws out something that's just like a hard no, and I try to make best use of their time and say like, hey, that's great. I'd love to understand the use case for that a little bit more. And then just kind of, show the cards and say like, so this thing that you mentioned, would love to hear if, that's kind of a must have for you. Because if it is, I want to be respectful of your time and just let you know it's not something we have currently. It's not on the roadmap, et cetera.
Yeah. I think we got to be careful too when we were talking about features, because features are only relevant for certain problems. And I think there's also an order to responding. So when someone has that objection, we'll talk about that question that you just asked in a second. Mm-hmm. My inclination would not be to just go right into that when someone says, why are you different or better? Saying, what do you like about those people, relative to what you're seeing here? I like to put that diffuser at the beginning. Like, hey, happy to, I'm not exactly sure we are. I don't want to say to you why I think we're different and assume that that's going to be meaningful to you. It may or may not be. So would it be okay if I ask you a couple questions just to better understand what you're looking for, to see if we might be a potential fit? Is that something you'd be open to? Any reasonable person is going to say, sure. And then one of the first questions I would ask in this second step of the process, to what I call expand, to learn more about the truth, is this really about them trying to compare apples to apples? Or is there something else going on? So one of the questions that I would ask along those lines is, what's prompting you to look at us? Like, why didn't you go with those other people that you've already looked at? I'm curious to know what's been stopping you. What's been holding you back? Like, tell me a little bit about that. Why haven't you already pulled the trigger with them?
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit about what you're trying to do, the jobs that you're trying to get done specifically. So this is not about features. We want to make sure that when you buy a tool, whether it's with us, would it be okay if I ask you some questions about what you're trying to get done specifically, so I can see if we address those or not? And then A, B, C, and D. Is there anything else? If you're able to address all those problems, those jobs, with our tool, is that something you'd want to, move forward with today? So a very like upfront and honest dialogue, because it's rarely, I think, about the competitors. There's something else going on that they're concerned about.
Yep.
And so asking those questions, if we were able to address those needs that you have, obviously at the right price point, is that something that you'd feel comfortable moving forward with this week? And what you're normally going to hear when you ask that question, the sort of moment of truth question, is, well, no, because, and then there's going to be all this stuff that has nothing to do with competitors. There's going to be some new CEO or some new boss or some new thing coming in, or there's no money, whatever the thing's going to be, we're going to end up hearing that. Oftentimes we're addressing not really the real issue.
Yeah.
So we have to kind of get at that. And the other key challenge here is we have to actually ask, this is amazing to me a lot of times with objections, we don't actually ask for the sale. Like, most people that I hear responding to objections never actually ask for the sale, which is essentially what I'm doing at the end. Like my sort of like the golden lasso question is, assuming that we can have a dialogue about what you're looking for. And I might also say, if I'm Jonah, hey, I work with a lot of people like that. Have you also considered this? Like you were telling me before we started to roll the camera, some new features that Wistia has coming out relative to some problems I had, and I didn't know about them. And you educated me on them. And that's like dangling candy in front of a baby. When you educate people, you make them smarter, they want more of you. And that was interesting. And I'm interested in what that feature is, and we'll probably end up buying it because it solves a very specific problem. So you have to be very good when you're asking these questions, that we don't get caught up in feature talk, because some features might not make sense. I want to understand specifically the jobs you're trying to get done, and also tell you about jobs you might not know you want to get done, to show you what's possible that other people like you are doing, so that you could stay ahead of the curve. And I might even use that language. I'm going to be asking you some questions to see if there's some things you've considered, because we work with lots of companies like you, just so you can stay ahead of the curve and know what else is out there. And that's going to elevate you again above the competition, because the competition is going to try to check the functionality box. They're not going to be thinking more strategically.
So two follow-up questions for you on that. First, on the feature piece of this, how do you balance wanting to be, so I totally agree on like the perils of fixating on that, but how do you also balance like wanting to give people the out to like let folks qualify themselves out, essentially? I guess it's kind of company by company.
Let's role play it. You pretend you're them and say something, and we'll see what I say.
Okay, cool. Josh, tell me about how you're different from competitor XYZ.
Oh, I don't want to assume, Jonah, that why I think we're different matters to you. So, would it be okay if I asked you a few questions about what you're trying to get done, and then we can explore if Wistia might be a fit, or maybe some other products might be a fit? Would that be fair? Are you open to that?
Sure.
Okay. And so I don't know enough about your industry, this use case, but from there, I'm going to start to ask probably the next logical question. It sounds like you've been looking around at some people. What's prompting you to look at Wistia? Why didn't you, curious to know, why didn't you just pull the trigger on some of those other products? What are you not seeing? Or talk to me a little bit about that. So that's going to get kind of, again, I'm trying to understand, and you might say what to that?
We've heard you were one of the kind of big 4 or 5 options out there to look. Seen some other companies in our space using your tool set. So kind of in an exploratory phase right now, just trying to get a sense of what's out there.
Why do you think we're such a big deal, Jonah?
Oh, I don't know. I saw somebody dancing on your homepage, and that caught my attention.
But what else is it about us that got your attention? I mean, you're having this call for some reason. You didn't got to pulled the trigger with some other competitors already, which is, I guess, but what is it about us that's attracting you in some way? Because you didn't have to talk to us today. So out of role play for a second.
Yeah.
What I'm trying to do is because remember, we can't create problems, and we really can't have someone that's not motivated by, so we have to find their desires and motivations, which is what I'm trying to do with these questions. So let's go back into role play. What is it about us that's attracting you to the site or to this call?
Yeah, we have a near-term need to put out some content, and it's part of a bigger site redesign, and we want to make sure that we do it the right way the first time.
Yeah, you said near term. This is something you're looking to do like now, or this can wait like a quarter, can it? This is no big rush for you?
Now, probably within Q1.
Got it. And what are you hoping this redesign is going to help you do better?
Yeah, we've got some goals around lead gen. We've got some softer goals around customer experience that we feel like have been on the board for a while. We have a new design lead who has a little bit of experience working with your tool in the past. Yeah,
but what I'm a little confused about, maybe I need your help. Aren't you able to do all those things with what you have right now? I mean, you guys are doing fine, right? What are you not able to do and out of role play?
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to find the struggle and the gap, because I haven't heard it yet. I haven't heard what progress I'm not able to make. And remember, we talk about the struggleometer. Unless I can get someone way up high, there's a good chance they're not going to buy anything, right? So I'm getting to the root here, which is it's probably not about competitors. This could be the reason they haven't done anything is because they're too low on the struggleometer. So they mentioned I have this site redesign. I'm hearing like lead gen. Now I want to get to, so Jonah, what specifically aren't you able to do? You guys are been doing this for a long time for like you've been in this job for 4 years, Jonah? How many years have you been doing this?
Yeah, it's been
4 years. You're humming along, and then all of a sudden the roof is falling off the house. Like, what are you no longer able to do? You're fine. Everything's working. Tell me.
Yeah. So we're trying to grow a little bit more aggressively this year than we have in the past. And what we're doing with lead gen has worked well, but it's not going to continue working well.
Why? Why isn't it going to work? Why isn't it going to work well? I'm not understanding.
Yeah, we have there's, like I said, we're trying to increase our growth rate, and we know that, the current inbound funnel, if we don't create some clear conversion paths on the site through the content that we're putting out, that, we're going to fall short of hitting those goals, and those goals are key to growing the business.
And what happens to you if that happens? You're going to still be fine, right? You'll still have your house, you'll still have your wife, your house.
I'll be
Are you going to be out of here?
I could be in trouble at that.
Yeah. So now look where we are, right? So what I heard now is I heard this going up into the red zone. I could be in trouble. I could be losing my job. This is critical. Like I'm hearing the energy, like I'm hearing now we're in the red zone. So then I'll ask the following question. Hey, Jonah, I don't suppose if we were able to address all of the jobs you need to get done to be able to get you what you wanted, is that something you wouldn't be interested in moving forward with this week, right? You mentioned that you want to wait, but if we could find and satisfy all those needs that you have to the 100% of your ability, is that something you'd want to move forward with this week?
We'd definitely consider it.
I'm sorry, consider? Tell me more about that.
So
what I'm doing out of role play for a second, again, I'm trying to just have Dr. Eric Burns talks about this a little bit, the psychologist. I'm just trying to have an adult to adult conversation to see if this is really about competitors. This is where this conversation started. So now I'm hearing, in fact, we're in the red zone, and we're now trying to figure out the next big thing, which is, do they want to do this now? And the next place I would go is, and he said, I might, are you the person? So Jonah, is in addition to you, who else needs to weigh in on this? Or you're the only person?
Yeah, no, there's a team of folks over here. The VP is going to make the final call.
But if you take this to the VP, he's going to throw you out of the office, right? He's not going to want to do it, is he? What's he going to say, you think?
VP is probably going to go with the recommendation that me and my other teammate make on this.
Doesn't sound too, probably. Has he not? Why do you think he might not? See, what I'm getting at here is I'm trying to see, I need to get motivated.
I'll be so I don't think I've ever pushed quite like this on a call. I'm excited to give it a try. But but yeah, no, it does give me pause of like how far to go on some of these things. But it's valuable to hear you do it for sure.
You can do it in a nice way. If it's not to pressure, but I'm trying to understand, are we in the red zone? And I might something say like this, can I do another question if you like? Say, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being you're ready to move forward now with Wistia, where would you put yourself? What would you say?
Oh, sorry, we're still in role play.
Yeah.
I'd say we're probably an 8.
Yeah, what would it take to get you to a 10? What are you not seeing? Another question, right? It's a question to understand what's the job they're trying to get done and what's the thing that's kind of holding them back.
Mm-hmm.
So let's role play from the very beginning, and you will be you, and I will be the prospect, and we will try to see how this new thing feels, which is at the beginning just opening up the dialogue, and then seeing if this really is about competitors. And we want to, because what we don't want to do, what this is trying to solve is we don't want to waste our time chasing someone that's not ready to buy right now. For you, it's a quarter, whatever your sales cycle is. If they're not, let's know that now, and then let's get them in a nurture track and get them out of our pipeline. That's what that's the idea of this. You can soften these words up and make them however you want to be able to make it. We gave you a couple different strategies and questions, 1 to 10s and different types of ways that I would question people. But I'm just trying to get at, is this a now thing or a later thing?
Yep.
And then after we get to that, we can kind of go. So Jonah, why are you better than your competitors?
Yeah, no, I appreciate you asking that. Candidly, I'm not sure that we are for your use case at the moment. I think I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on a couple more questions. Would you have a few more minutes to chat through it? Perfect. Yeah, sure. Okay. Based on what you've seen so far, what do you like about the product? Is there anything that you've seen that maybe falls short compared to another tool set?
Yeah, I like that question a lot. I also like, looks like you've looked at a couple different tools. If you don't mind me asking, why didn't you move forward with those tools? What's kind of piquing your interest in moving into Wistia? Because I'm trying to get at the gap. I want to understand where the gap is. So I try to ask the question like that. So it looks like you've looked at a couple other competitors, which I don't blame you for doing. It looks like you're doing your due diligence. I'm curious if you don't mind me asking, what is it that you're not seeing that you're hoping to see with us? In other words, why didn't you just move forward with those guys? They're great, I'm sure. What are you doing talking to me? Could have been done with this already. So let's try that on for size, see how that feels as your first question after I've opted into. Sure, I'll be more than happy to answer some questions for you, Jonah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so it sounds like you've done due diligence on a few other options, which is great. Is there something that you haven't seen with those that kind of caught your eye about Wistia?
It's a great question. Yeah, so we were looking at a couple of your competitors, and we weren't like extremely happy with the pricing. And so we were hoping that we'd be able to achieve the same, things for less money.
Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, we can definitely talk through pricing. And I think, if the product is a fit, I think we can get to a spot where it's going to work for all parties. What is your timeline at the moment? Hold on a second.
Let's talk about this for a second. So someone says price, right? That's an interesting one, right? So someone said price to me, I would say, price aside, if we were able to come to terms on price, and I don't know if we can, is this something you'd be prepared to move forward with this week? Or are there other things holding you back? What I'm trying to do is isolate the potential not truth, because I don't know yet. Is it really price? And that question that you ask, this sort of if-then, like the truth question is, hey, no problem. Other than price, assume price is out of the equation for a second. Is there anything else preventing you from moving forward this week with whatever you're going to choose? Well, yes. In fact, there is. There's boom, and then there's boom, and then there's boom, and then at least now you know everything. Oh, there's a boss. Yeah. So go ahead and ask me that question. So let's try the price thing. other than price and action.
Yeah. Yeah. Appreciate you mentioning price. Definitely understand where you're coming from on that. In addition to price, is there anything else that you're looking at as a challenge right now?
So I don't like challenge. I like using words like buying right now. Is there anything other than price? I know this is hard for people. Like people are afraid to ask for the sale. We could do it in a nice way, but is there anything stopping you from moving forward this week? That's a nice way to say it.
Price, Josh.
Yeah.
Is there anything stopping you from moving forward this week?
Now, I say it in the Jonah way, but I'm using my words. But like, how would Jonah? Like, I want it to feel comfortable for you, but we need to actually say, in so many words, like you want to buy or something else going on. You know, you could use the 1 to 10 thing. You know, other than price, taking price out of the equation. Is this something you'd want to move forward with this quarter? And you could say, if you want to soften it up, perfectly okay if you guys aren't ready at this time. If that feels better.
Right.
So let's try it. So okay, back. And I think we're just looking for, to get better price.
Yeah. Okay. I appreciate you mentioning that. So we can definitely talk through price. And
I want to
we'll
stop for a second. I want to stop a second.
Yeah.
The words are very important. I want to make sure that we don't set the precedent that we're discounting. So when you say talk through price, sometimes that might come across as wiggle room. So I want to say, price aside. Assuming
I was okay. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I was under the assumption that we hadn't already had that discussion.
Okay, let's try it again. So yeah, we're concerned about price, which is why we're looking for something a little lower cost, which is why we're looking at Wistia.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, appreciate you mentioning that. Other than price, what other issues or challenges do you feel like would need to be addressed in order for this to be a fit this month?
That's it, dude. That wasn't that hard, right?
Yeah.
That's it. And now what you're gonna hear is the real truth. Now you're gonna hear, I got to talk to the boss. I don't know. We haven't really brought this to the boss yet. I have to run this by my VP of sales, so I don't really know. I couldn't do this decision by myself. And now what are you going to say? Okay, great. Would it make sense to schedule some time to reconnect next week and to bring them into that conversation? Okay, let's flip the word. Let's flip it. So you say I got to talk to my boss, and I'm going to be you. Okay, great. You got to talk to your boss, I have to talk to my boss. Yeah. Let me talk to my boss too. Hi, Jenna, it's my wife. Jenna, come over here. No, she said it's okay. No, seriously. What do you, if your boss said it was up to you, Jonah, would you want to move forward this month? Yeah, still have another couple demos to do, but everything that I've seen today looks promising. Excellent. And how long have you been working with your boss? About 2 years now. What do you think? And he's not going to want to do this, right? He's going to want to, keep doing what you're doing. What do you think he would say? Or she, I should say. I got to be careful here. He or she, let's say she. What do you think she would say? Yeah, no, it's a good question. I haven't spoken to them about it just yet. They control the budget, but they also realize that we have to do something new for this project. But you've known him for a while. Have you guys ever bought anything or purchased anything like this before? Is this the kind of a first time you've done a tool like this, or? Not the first time. No, not the first time. We've bought nothing quite in this space, but we've added to the stack quite a bit the last year or so. What do you think she'll say? I mean, you've been working with her for 4 years. What's your gut? I'm not sure. I think she'll have the same concern about price. Okay, no worries. So you think she'll be concerned about price? What are you going to tell her about that? How are you going to resolve that? Sounds like you want this. What do you think about? Yeah, well, is there any potential for discount on what we've talked through to this point, so I can go to her with kind of the best package that I'm able to bring? I think it would make sense to make sure that that's the only thing holding you back. Is price the only concern you have, or that she has, or are other things important to you as well? Is it just about price at this point? Are you guys just looking for the lowest competitor, because if you are looking for just the lowest price competitor and you're not interested in some of the other ways in which we can help you do your jobs better, like A, B, and C, if it's just strictly about the lowest cost price, we're not going to be a fit for you. Does it make sense to maybe just bail now? So I certainly don't want to waste your time, Jonah. Should I get off the phone?
No, don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere.
Okay,
I understand.
See what I'm doing? So if in fact she says, no, I really do need to talk to my boss, which is a perfectly reasonable thing. And then we're going to say, hey, not a problem. Hey, would it make sense? When are you going to talk to your boss? You think this week, next week, another couple of days? We just tell this guy, Brandon, I'm running a little late. Give me like 5 minutes. Give me like 5 minutes.
Sounds good. See ya.
All right, no worries. So we go like this. Go back into role play. Hey, so when do you think you're going to be able to chat with your boss?
Probably later today or tomorrow morning.
Excellent. Would it make sense for us to get on the phone tomorrow afternoon once you've had an opportunity to chat with her so that you could tell me either way whether you want to move forward or not? And it's no problem at all if you guys decide you want to wait or you want to go with a competitor. Does that sound fair? That way I'm not chasing you. You're not chasing me. We can part as friends. I'll even send you a free book that I wrote called blah, 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 blah. And from time to time, I send ingredient smoothie recipes too. So does that sound fair? Would you be open to that, Jonah?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. And so now I have a commit, I have a meeting, and I know that if you don't show up for the meeting, and I know the purpose of the meeting is a decision. If you don't show up for the meeting, I don't chase you. I'm not following up. If you don't show up, fine. You're in the nurture track. No problem. Not a buyer. If you do show up, I'm going to get an answer as to if you want to move forward or not. If it's just price, we could talk about price. Can we break up the terms? Can we do a 10 and 2? There's all sorts of things we can do. If it's really like we want the cheapest price, then I will break up every single time.
Yeah.
Because if someone's like only price and I don't care about X, Y, and Z, we think that would be doing you a disservice to be able to pay this money where you're not going to be able to get the jobs done that you want to get job. If in fact you can get the exact things done with us that you can with them at the same price, then you should absolutely go with them. Because I will never, ever discount. Ever. You guys should never discount.
Yeah.
Don't discount. Don't do it. You could throw stuff in. I can't do that, but what we'll do is we'll throw in this new thing that we have called channels. You mentioned to me that one of the jobs you wanted to get done is this. And we have this other thing. It's normally this much more. What I can do is add that to the license for the first 6 months. If in fact, there's nothing else holding you back. But I think what I'm hearing from you, Jonah, and this is common, is we're not getting to the truth, which is, I'm sorry to say it, like, do they want to buy right now? All these objections could be smoke screens. It could have nothing to do. The point of this whole thing, the thesis, the headline, is that objection of how do you compare to your competitors may or may not be what the real truth is in terms of moving the sale forward. And really at the end of the day, as salespeople, our job is to see if we can make someone happier this quarter. And if we can't, that's okay. But we don't want to burn our time on them. And I think we have a tendency as salespeople to beat around the bush a little bit. I know I was using some strong words that might not have felt good for you. Depends how you deliver them. But the idea here is I want to see, like, do I have a buyer? Like this quarter, because I got to make because it's, now, essentially, whatever your sales cycle is. And if it's not, it's okay. You're going to bow out and say, you know what, it sounds like right now it's not. We got this great, Wishia does this better than anybody in the market. Great content on how to make better videos, how to light the backgrounds. Can we drop you in there? You'll hear from us from time to time. And then what sometimes you'll hear is a day later, them convincing you to come back sometimes.
No, I love that. It's a great reminder.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. It's super helpful to hear. I want to just, as we're wrapping up, I want to ask you one last question. So something I feel like we started a conversation on competitors, but then it morphed into a conversation on objections, which I think is exactly your point. One of the things that I try to emphasize is like, and I'm paraphrasing here, but acknowledging my bias. Like, obviously I'm going to tell you, like, if I feel like it's a fit, obviously I'm going to tell you we're the best option. What I'm going to send you, in addition to what we talked through, is kind of some third-party validation of that, some user reviews, so you can see where we rank. That's, to me, I try to call that out as something that's like, don't kind of take my word for it. Go look at this resource separately and read folks who are addressing similar challenges. We didn't get a chance to get there, but I just wanted to put a plug in for that.
I think that's
it's always in the back of my mind.
We talk a little bit about this. If you're making people are buying you. I mean, it's a very emotional thing, sales. And your third-party stuff is fine. Case studies, maybe people read it, maybe they don't. It's fine. But they're going to buy you, man. And you're going to be credible because you're going to be making them smarter all along the way. Like, this is why you and I are talking. Like, I don't have to be talking to you. You don't have to be talking to me, but we both get something out of it. And your prospects are going to get something out of talking to you too. And so don't shortchange your swagger and your expertise. Because that stuff matters, man. I mean, people are going to, that's like a big thing. You are a differentiator.
Yeah,
so to the extent where you feel positioned properly, you should take a very strong stance and come across as the personal trainer that can get you across the finish line. Because what I don't want is a personal trainer to say, what do you want to work on today? Josh, I've heard this all the time, this exact job. Yeah. This is why this tool is going to help you in the best way. Let me walk you through it and what you might not know about other things. So I'm going to educate you on this right now. So if it comes down to like, I'm not sure about this thing, and then that is the time and the only time where you can actually start to share your expertise in a very authoritative way. Mm-hmm. I just recently hired a triathlon coach. I was interviewing 3 of them, and 2 of them were meek. And one of them was like, dude, you're not doing that. The thing that you say you want to do is not going to get you to where you want to be. And I don't recommend it. And if you want that, I'm not working with you. I'm like, whoa, like that's the person that I want to be around. It's the same thing with what you're selling. There's a point at which I call it the flip. My old boss, Harry Gottlieb, used to do this better than anybody, where all of a sudden the salesperson was like up here, like, whoa, he knows a lot of stuff that I don't know about this thing. And I want more of that. Yeah. And so don't be so quick to push someone off on third-party credibility. You are the credibility.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I do still.
Stay on. You can stay on. We're just wrapping up.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
so
I do. I hear you.
You can listen in, Brandon. You can listen in. We're not talking about you. You're fine.
Good information, nonetheless.
No, I appreciate you mentioning that as well. I take that to heart. I think it's something that we try to do, every day. But at least for me, I feel better about taking that authoritative stance when I can back it up with something beyond that. Here's my experience. Here's what I've seen work well. So I think I try to. I think of them as sort of one, and like they happen basically in the same breath.
Yeah, but I think just in parting, you are going to be more persuasive than your white papers and your case studies.
Oh yeah, totally agree. I'm talking about other people's reviews of our product.
Sure. And they're going to see that before they get on the phone with you. They're going to be reading that before they get on the phone with you. But when they have you on the phone and it's a fit, it's your time to shine, baby.
All right, Josh.
Have a good one, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.